My brothers and sisters, sometimes we raise our hands and cry out to Allah with the deepest part of our hearts, and we wonder, when will my dua be answered? But we forget that when Allah responds, He does so with perfect wisdom, perfect timing, and perfect love. Let me remind you of something beautiful. When Allah is preparing to answer your dua, He shows you signs, not to tease you, but to reassure you that He has never forgotten you. Sign 1. Your heart suddenly finds calmness. Before anything around you changes, Allah changes what is inside you. You begin to feel a strange peace, even though your situation is the same. That tranquility is not random. It is Allah saying, I am with you. Sign 2. The path you were forcing begins to close. Sometimes you think something is good for you and Allah blocks it. You may feel frustrated, but later you realize He was saving you from harm. When doors close, don't panic. It could be the beginning of your dua being accepted. Sign 3. New doors open effortlessly. Suddenly opportunities appear. People, ideas, chances, and they come without you chasing them. They slip into your life with ease. That ease is a sign from Allah. Because what is meant for you never requires you to break yourself to attain it. Sign 4. Your character improves. When Allah is about to bless you, He refines you first. You start letting go of sins more easily. You feel pulled towards Salah, Quran, and good company. You become more patient, more grateful. Allah elevates you before He elevates your circumstances. Sign 5. Small blessings begin to gather like raindrops. A simple kindness, a random solution, a peaceful night, a forgiven sin. These little mercies are like gentle taps from Allah saying, I am preparing something bigger. Sign 6. You feel pushed away from what harms you. Even if your heart was attached to something unhealthy, Allah removes it from your path. Losing something can be a sign that your dua is being answered in a better way. Sign 7. The impossible becomes possible. And then one day, quietly, softly, your dua becomes a reality. Not in the way you imagine. No, in the way Allah knew was best. When that moment comes, you realize that every delay, every tear, every challenge was part of the plan. My brothers and sisters, never judge Allah's timing. Never think your dua is ignored. The moment you raise your hands, the response already begins, but it unfolds in the most loving and perfect way. Continue to ask. Continue to trust. Continue to walk toward Him. Because when Allah answers, He answers in ways that transform your life forever. Patience and trust are deeply intertwined in the journey of dua. When a person sincerely calls upon Allah, they enter a sacred space of vulnerability, hope, and faith. Yet before the visible signs of acceptance appear, Allah often places the believer through a phase in which their patience and trust are gently but powerfully tested. This is not a punishment, it is a purification, an elevation of the heart so that it becomes worthy of the blessing it seeks. Many people assume that the absence of immediate results means their dua is not being heard. But in reality, the waiting period itself is one of the clearest signs that Allah is preparing the heart, strengthening it and shaping it so that when the blessing finally arrives, it is received with gratitude instead of arrogance, with humility instead of entitlement. When you make a heartfelt dua, something begins to change, even if you cannot perceive it at first. What changes is your inner state, your relationship with Allah, and your understanding of your own limitations. You begin to recognize that you are relying not on your own efforts, not on the resources of this world, but on the Lord of the heavens and the earth. That recognition itself is a gift. It is as though Allah is saying to you, come closer to me. Let your trust settle fully in me before I show you my plan. This closeness cannot be rushed. It must be developed through patience, reflection, and sincere devotion. A believer who learns to trust Allah during the delay becomes spiritually stronger than the one who receives instantly without being tested. Patience is not passive. It is not simply waiting with folded hands and a restless heart. True patience means keeping your dua alive. Even when everything around you seems unchanged, it means trusting Allah. Even when reason or emotion pulls you toward doubt. It means believing with conviction that Allah's promise is true even when you cannot see the path ahead. And that conviction, once established, becomes one of the most powerful forms of Iman. People often underestimate how much Allah loves to hear their voice. Sometimes Allah delays the answer because He loves the closeness that dua brings between Him and His servant. The longer you continue asking, the more your heart becomes connected to Him and the more sincere your prayers become. You begin to ask not only for the outcome, but also for guidance, strength, peace, and clarity. Things you did not even realize you needed when you first raised your hands. During this waiting period, Allah also reveals the sincerity of your intention. A person who only wants a quick solution may give up asking after a few days or even a few hours. But a person who genuinely trusts in Allah remains steadfast, patient, and committed. This steadfastness is itself a sign of spiritual maturity. It shows that your focus has shifted from the worldly result to the relationship you are building with your Creator. Every delay is actually Allah polishing your heart, removing subtle impurities, reshaping your desires, and aligning your soul with what is better for you in this world and the next. This test of patience can also expose the weaknesses we sometimes hide from ourselves. When a dua is delayed, feelings such as frustration, fear, or disappointment may appear. These emotions reveal where our trust is thin and where we need to strengthen our faith. Instead of viewing these emotions as a sign of failure, they should be seen as an invitation from Allah to turn back to Him even more sincerely. The believer who recognizes these emotions and redirects them to Allah grows spiritually. They begin to understand that true trust is not proven when things go smoothly, but when everything seems silent, yet the heart remains firm. And then comes the beauty of patience. The more you practice it, the more it transforms your character. You become calmer, more thoughtful, more appreciative of the smallest blessings. Your dua becomes a source of peace instead of anxiety, because you know that Allah is listening with full awareness and full wisdom. You learn to detach from the timeline and surrender to the one who owns all time. Even if society pressures you to rush, even if people demand quick results, your heart remains anchored in the certainty that Allah will never disappoint you. There is a hidden mercy in delayed answers. If Allah were to grant everything instantly, you might lose the ability to appreciate the blessings when they arrive. You might forget to say Alhamdulillah. You might even assume you obtained the blessing through your own efforts. But when you wait, when you struggle, when you endure, and then you finally receive, the gratitude that fills your heart becomes deeper and more sincere. You know without doubt that this blessing came only from Allah, and that knowledge enriches your soul far more than the blessing itself. Through patience and trust, you are not just waiting for an answer, you are becoming the person who is ready to receive it. And this transformation is one of the greatest signs that Allah has already begun responding to your dua. When a person sincerely turns to Allah in dua, they often imagine that the path to acceptance will feel smooth and straightforward. They expect that everything will begin to fall into place easily. But one of Allah's most subtle and profound signs is that He sometimes closes the very doors you thought would lead to your dua being answered. At first, this can feel confusing or even painful, but it is surely a sign of divine protection and wisdom. Allah closes doors not to deny you, but to guide you. He redirects you from paths that would bring harm, delay, disappointment, or spiritual loss. And often these closures happen before the acceptance of your dua becomes visible. It is as though Allah is cleaning your path, removing obstacles, and steering you away from the wrong roads so you can eventually arrive at the right one. What many people misunderstand is that a closed door is not a rejection. It is a redirection. The moment you say, Ya Allah, grant me what is best, you are asking the one who knows every hidden detail of your life to take control. And when Allah takes control, He does not always take you down the path you had imagined. You may attempt something with full passion, believing it will bring you success, marriage, healing, stability, or happiness, and suddenly it falls apart. Plans crumble, opportunities fade, people walk away, agreements collapse, or the process becomes unexpectedly difficult. Instead of assuming your dua is being ignored, you must pause and consider this. Perhaps Allah is gently taking you away from what you think is best for you, because He has something far better. Sometimes the path you want is not harmful in itself, but the timing is wrong. Allah may close it temporarily so that you grow in strength, wisdom, maturity, or reliance on Him. A blessing received too early can feel like a burden, and Allah protects you by delaying it. At other times, the path you desire might contain hidden struggles you cannot see. You might be pursuing a job that looks promising, but Allah knows it will drain your faith. You may be insisting on a relationship that appears loving, but Allah knows it will eventually break your heart. You might be holding on to an opportunity that seems perfect, but Allah knows it will block something greater. So He closes the door, sometimes abruptly, to save you from a future you are unaware of. And if He did not close it, you would walk straight into that hardship. There are also moments when Allah closes a door because He wants your heart to turn back to Him more fully. Sometimes a person becomes so attached to their plan that they forget the planner. They stop making dua sincerely. They rely more on people and circumstances than on Allah. In such moments, a closed door becomes a reminder, a div, I nudge, that no matter how strong your plan is, Allah's plan is always stronger. Losing something you were counting on forces you to reassess what truly matters and who truly controls outcomes. This humility prepares your heart for better things ahead. A closed door also exposes whether your trust in Allah is genuine or conditional. Anyone can trust Allah when things are going smoothly. But when the path shuts down, when the opportunity ends, when the outcome changes, that is when true trust is tested. Will you still believe that Allah is the best planner? Will you still believe that He is guiding you? Will you still make dua with the same sincerity? When a believer maintains hope, even as doors close, that hope becomes a form of worship loved by Allah. And when Allah loves a servant's reliance on Him, He never leaves them empty-handed. He may replace a closed door with one that opens so effortlessly that it feels miraculous. Another beautiful wisdom behind closed doors is that they turn you away from what is temporary and direct you toward what is permanent. Sometimes Allah wants to give you something much greater than the thing you are chasing. Something that strengthens our faith, protects your heart, or elevates your soul. And often, this growth could only happen through a moment of disappointment. You learn patience, humility, resilience, and contentment. You learn that your happiness is not tied to a particular outcome, but to your connection with Allah. This spiritual growth becomes part of the acceptance of your dua, even before the material outcome appears. Life becomes easier when you learn to read a closed door as a message from Allah rather than a failure. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? You begin asking, what is Allah redirecting me toward? Instead of blaming yourself or others, you begin to trust that there is something unseen unfolding. Instead of feeling defeated, you feel guided. And then, with time, clarity arrives. Allah opens new doors. Doors you never imagined. Doors that bring peace instead of turmoil. Doors that align perfectly with your dua in ways that make you say, Subhanallah, this was worth the wait. When the new door opens, you look back and finally understand why the old one had to close. You begin to appreciate the divine precision behind every delay, every detour, every refusal. Closed door is not the end of your dua. It is often the beginning of its acceptance. It is Allah clearing the wrong road so you can walk the right one. It is Allah protecting you before blessing you. When you learn to trust this process, your heart stops fearing closed doors and starts seeing them as signs of Allah's love, wisdom, and nearness. When a person calls upon Allah with sincerity, they often imagine the blessing arriving directly, smoothly, and without interruption. But one of the most profound signs that Allah is answering your dua is that He begins removing harmful paths from your life. Gently, gradually, and sometimes very suddenly. This removal can feel confusing, especially when the path being taken away is one you thought was good for you. But Allah's knowledge is limitless, while ours is limited. He knows what lies behind every door. He knows the unseen consequences of every choice, and He knows exactly what will elevate you or bring you pain. When Allah removes a harmful path, it is an act of divine mercy long before it becomes clear to you. You might be asking Allah for something good, a stable future, a righteous partner, a better livelihood, healing from emotional wounds, or guidance in your decisions. But with every sincere dua you make, you are essentially saying, "Oh Allah, choose for me what is best." And when Allah chooses for you, He is not only giving you the good, He is protecting you from the harm. This protection often comes before the blessing, because the path must be purified before the gift is placed upon it. Sometimes you may not recognize the harm immediately, because harmful paths are not always obvious. They can appear attractive, convenient, or comforting. They may look like opportunities. They may feel like they are bringing you closer to your goal. Yet Allah knows the traps concealed within them. He knows the emotional, spiritual, or worldly losses they would bring. So He removes them, even if you try to hold on to them. Often, the removal begins subtly. You may feel a sense of unease, discomfort, or misalignment about something you once felt confident in, or small obstacles start appearing, delays, conflicts, confusion, miscommunication, or repeated setbacks. These are not random, they are signs. It is Allah gently pulling you away from something that would harm your faith, your happiness, or your future. When you resist this redirection, the process may become firmer, a situation may end abruptly, a plan may collapse, a relationship may break, a job may slip out of reach. At the moment, the loss feels painful, but in reality, it is protection disguised as disappointment. There is a deep wisdom behind why Allah removes harmful paths before granting what is good. First, Allah knows how attached the human heart can become to the wrong things. Without divine intervention, you might continue down a path that leads to heartbreak, regret, sin, or long-term struggle. Allah loves you more than you can comprehend. His mercy is not only in what He gives, but also in what He blocks. Sometimes you may think you need something, a person, an outcome, an opportunity, but in truth you are being saved from something that would have consumed your peace or weakened your faith. Many people only realize this in hindsight, when they look back and say, I didn't understand it then, but now I see why Allah removed it. Another wisdom is that harmful paths drain your energy, focus, and emotional strength. They distract you from your purpose and take up space in your heart that should be reserved for better things. Al-Aqli, ours these paths so you have room for the blessings He is preparing for you. You cannot receive what is good while clinging to what is harmful. Imagine trying to hold on to something heavy and broken while reaching for something precious. You simply cannot hold both. Allah removes the weight so you can grasp the gift. When harmful paths disappear from your life, you may feel empty at first, but that emptiness is not lost. It is space being created for something greater. Sometimes harmful paths are not external, but internal. They may be harmful habits, toxic thoughts, unhealthy attachments, or sins that keep pulling you away from Allah. In this case, Allah helps remove these by making you feel dissatisfaction with them. Something you once enjoyed may suddenly feel heavy. Something you repeatedly return to may no longer satisfy you. Your heart begins to feel the bitterness of what is spiritually harmful. This awakening is one of the clearest signs that Allah is responding to your dua for guidance, purity, and strength. He removes not only harmful circumstances, but harmful desires. There are moments when Allah removes certain people from your life because they would hinder your growth. A person who discourages you from righteousness, who weakens your resolve, or who brings constant negativity is removed by divine wisdom. This removal may hurt initially, but the healing that follows becomes a doorway to peace. Allah does not take away someone from your life unless their presence would block a better future, whether spiritually or emotionally. Every departure written by Allah carries a hidden mercy. As your harmful paths fade away, you begin to notice something else happening. Clarity emerges. The confusion begins to lift. Your emotions stabilize. You start seeing the bigger picture. You begin to realize that what Allah removed was never meant to stay because it was never meant to shape your destiny. Only what is good, beneficial, and aligned with your prayers will remain. In time, Allah replaces those harmful paths with better ones. Paths that bring peace, blessings, stability, and closeness to Him. You walk with a heart that trusts more deeply than before because you understand that Allah's protection is as much a form of acceptance as His blessings. And then you realize the truth. Your dua was being answered all along, not only through what Allah gave, but through what He removed. When a believer makes dua with sincerity, something begins to transform long before any visible change appears in their circumstances. One of the most beautiful and subtle signs that Allah is answering your dua is that your character begins to improve, sometimes in ways you never planned, never expected, and never even realized you needed. This inner transformation is not an accident. It is Allah preparing you for the very thing you are asking for. Before He grants you the blessing, He shapes you into someone who can receive it, appreciate it, and protect it. A person might raise their hands asking for success, peace, love, stability, or guidance. Yet they may not realize that these blessings require a certain inner strength, discipline, and purity. A blessing placed in the wrong heart becomes a burden, but a blessing placed in a heart refined by Allah becomes a means of elevation. So when Allah is about to answer a dua, He begins working on the heart. You may find yourself becoming more patient with people, more mindful of your words, more careful with your actions, or more sensitive to right and wrong. What used to anger you quickly now becomes ease, ear to overlook. What used to tempt you now begins to feel unworthy. These are not random changes, they are divine signs. Sometimes a person prays for a righteous spouse, yet Allah begins by purifying their own behavior. A person prays for a successful career, yet Allah begins by teaching them humility, honesty and discipline. A person prays for inner peace, yet Allah begins by pulling them away from harmful habits, toxic environments or negative thinking. The dua is being answered, but not in the way the person expects, not through an external result, but through an internal refinement. Allah changes you so that the blessing you ask for becomes a source of good, not harm. This kind of character growth happens gently. You may find yourself drawn toward acts of worship that once felt heavy. Salah becomes less of a task and more of a comfort. Reading Quran soothes your heart in ways it never did before. You begin to enjoy moments of stillness, reflection, and remembrance. The world's noise becomes less appealing, while Allah's closeness becomes more meaningful. Something inside you softens, a softness that brings strength, not weakness. This spiritual awakening is one of the clearest signs that your dua is opening doors within you. Character improvement can also come through a series of challenges. You may encounter people who test your patience or situations that require emotional growth. At first, you may wonder why life is becoming more difficult when you are asking Allah for ease. But these tests are training sessions. Just as muscles strengthen through resistance, the heart strengthens through trials. When you are tested, it is not a sign of rejection. It is often a sign of preparation. Allah tests you gently, shaping your character so that when the blessing arrives, you do not misuse it or lose it. Another aspect of character growth is the removal of pride. Sometimes a person asks Allah for something big, and Allah responds by humbling them first. You may go through a phase where you feel more dependent on Allah, more aware of your weaknesses, and more in need of His mercy. This humility softens your heart and brings sincerity into your dua. It cleanses your intentions so that you seek the blessing not to boast, not to compete, not to impress others, but because it will draw you closer to Allah and benefit your life. A pure intention attracts pure blessings. You may also notice that you start detaching from sins more easily. What once felt tempting may now feel empty. What once controlled you may loosen its grip. Allah might close doors to harmful habits or remove certain influences from your life. This is not a loss, it is purification. A dua for guidance, success or peace cannot be fulfilled while sins chain the heart, so Allah removes those chains one by one. This quiet moral shift within you is a strong indication that Allah is preparing something better for you. As your character improves, you also become more grateful. Gratitude changes your tone, your thoughts, your interactions. You begin noticing blessings you used to overlook, the safety in your home, the food you eat, the people who care for you, the dua you can still make. Gratitude heightens your awareness of Allah's presence and increases your hope that He will give you what you seek. Allah promises that the grateful will receive more. So when gratitude grows in your heart, it is a sign that you are entering a phase of increase. Character growth also strengthens your emotional resilience. You become less reactive, more reflective. You pause before ting. You choose kindness when anger seems easier. You let go when holding on would harm you. You forgive more quickly, not because the other person deserves it, but because peace means more to you than ego. These shifts happen slowly, subtly, but they are real. They are signs of a heart being groomed by Allah to receive something greater. And then a time comes when you look back and realize that the person you used to be could not have handled the blessings you now seek. Allah changed you first so that the blessing will not overwhelm you. He elevated you internally before elevating your circumstances externally. Your dua was being answered all along through the growth taking place within you. A changed character is a sign of a changed destiny. When Allah is answering your dua, He begins by transforming your heart, your habits, your thoughts, and your behavior. And this transformation is often the most beautiful part of the journey because it stays with you long after the blessing arrives. When a person makes dua, they often imagine a single dramatic moment in which everything changes at once, as if one grand blessing will descend and instantly transform their life. But Allah's mercy is far more subtle, far more gentle, and far more precise. One of the clearest signs that Allah is responding to your dua is that a series of small blessings begins to gather, almost unnoticed at first, like raindrops before a rainfall. These little mercies appear quietly, without announcement, yet together they form a powerful indication that Allah's help is already on its way. It is a reminder that dua is not only answered through a final outcome, but through every tiny step that leads to it. Often people overlook these small blessings because they are waiting for something big. They miss the shift in their mood, the encouraging message from a friend, the sudden clarity in a decision, the unexpected ease in a task, or the moment of peace that comes in the middle of chaos. These are not accidents, they are divine signs. Allah does not always begin answering your dua by granting the entire thing at once. Instead, He sends small reminders that He is listening, that He is near, and that the path is being prepared. One of the small blessings that often appears is the blessing of clarity. You may suddenly understand something you were confused about for months. A decision becomes easier. The confusion that weighed on your heart begins to lift. This clarity may be subtle, but it is a powerful sign. It means Allah is realigning your thoughts and guiding you toward what you asked for or what will benefit you more. Clarity is often the first step toward a bigger blessing. Another small blessing is the arrival of ease in matters that used to feel difficult. Perhaps you find yourself waking up for Fajr more effortlessly. Maybe you begin to feel a new flow in your work, studies, or responsibilities. Perhaps the heaviness that once clouded your heart starts to lighten. Ease is one of Allah's most merciful signs. It is as if Allah is clearing your path, dusting away the burdens, and strengthening your ability to move forward. People often underestimate these moments, but they are quiet confirmations that Allah is listening. Small blessings also come in form of the right people entering your life at the right time. A single conversation can ignite hope. A simple piece of advice can redirect your entire journey. Someone may encourage you, support you, or guide you in a way that aligns perfectly with the dua you have been making. These individuals are not coincidences. They are sent by Allah as signs that He is arranging the puzzle pieces behind the scenes. Sometimes the arrival of a single helpful person is the beginning of a major transformation. Another beautiful small blessing is the shift in your heart. You may notice yourself becoming calmer, more trusting, or more hopeful. Where there used to be anxiety, there is now a sense of quiet reassurance. Where there used to be fear, there is now a growing trust. This emotional shift is a mercy from Allah. It may feel small, but it indicates that your inner world is being prepared for an external blessing. Allah works on the heart first, because the heart must be ready before the hand can receive. Sometimes the small blessings come in the form of small victories, finishing something you kept delaying, overcoming a habit you struggled with, solving a problem that had drained you, or finding motivation that had disappeared. These victories may seem insignificant, but they build confidence and strengthen your connection with Allah. They show that your dua is starting to bring movement into your life, step by step. Consider also the blessing of opportunities. They may not be the final answer to your dua, but they are stepping stones. An email, a suggestion, an invitation, a new idea. All these can be little doors opening. Allah might not open the main gate yet, but He opens the smaller gates to lead you gradually toward your destination. Every opportunity has the potential to be part of your dua's journey. Even the trials that become slightly lighter, or the problems that begin to resolve themselves, are part of these small blessings. You might find that something which caused you great pain no longer affects you as deeply, or a conflict begins to settle, or a hardship starts to ease. This reduction in difficulty is itself a sign that Allah is responding. The storm does not disappear instantly. It calms gradually. What is profound about these small blessings is that they often gather quietly, almost unnoticed. But when you step back and reflect, you realize that your life is being gently reshaped. The blessings accumulate like threads weaving into a pattern. They come in ways that build your strength, deepen your gratitude, and increase your trust. Allah is preparing you, preparing your circumstances, and preparing the blessing so everything aligns perfectly at the right time. When the final blessing arrives, the big one you have been waiting for, you will see how each small blessing was part of the journey. The clarity, the ease, the people, the victories, the peace, they were all signs that your dua was already unfolding. They were not random. They were divine messages saying, I hear you, I am with you. Be patient, the best is yet to come. Recognizing these small blessings transforms your relationship with Allah. You stop thinking that dua is answered only in big moments. You begin to see Allah's mercy in every detail of your life. This awareness fills your heart with gratitude, which in turn attracts even more blessings. It strengthens your faith in ways that last long after your dua is fulfilled. So when small blessings begin to gather around you, know that Allah is already answering your dua drop by drop, moment by moment, until the final blessing arrives in the most beautiful way. When a believer makes dua, they often visualize the answer arriving in the exact form they imagined. They picture a specific job, a particular relationship, a certain opportunity, or a desired outcome, and they assume that this is what the fulfillment of their dua must look like. But Allah, in His infinite wisdom, often answers by redirecting you from what you want toward what you truly need. This redirection is one of the most profound signs that Allah is answering your dua, though it may not feel like it in the beginning. Human perception is limited. We see only the surface, while Allah sees the depth, the past, the future, the hidden consequences, and the inner realities that we cannot comprehend. Sometimes you ask Allah for something you are deeply convinced is right for you. You plan for it, you imagine it, and you attach your heart to it. But the more you move toward it, the more obstacles appear. Or the more you pursue it, the more your heart feels unsettled. Or perhaps everything seems to fall into place, only for the entire plan to collapse suddenly. In those moments, a person may feel confused or even hurt. They may wonder why Allah did not give them what they prayed for so sincerely. But what they do not realize is that Allah is not ignoring their dua. He is redirecting it. He is pulling them away from what they think is good toward what actually is good. Allah's redirection is not random. It is not a denial. It is protection. The thing you want may not be harmful in itself, but it may harm you in ways you cannot see. It may delay your growth, distract your purpose, weaken your faith, or limit your potential. It may take you down a path that leads to disappointment or struggle. Allah sees that. Allah knows that. So while you are asking for something specific, He prepares something better, something that aligns with your soul, your path, your future, and your ultimate good. This redirection often begins with subtle inner signs. You may lose your excitement for something you once desired intensely. You may feel a heaviness in your chest when moving toward it, even though it should logically feel good. You may start questioning your own choices. This internal shift is not to be dismissed. Allah places feelings in the heart as a compass. When your heart is pulled away from something that once consumed you, it is often a divine rerouting. Your heart begins to detach because Allah is making space for something better. Then there are external redirections. Doors begin to close. Communication becomes difficult. Plans fall apart. Situations stop flowing. Not because you did something wrong, but because Allah is steering you toward what you need. You might attempt to return to what you want, but Allah blocks the path repeatedly. Each time the path shuts down, it is a sign that Allah is guiding you elsewhere. You may not understand it now, but the closure is a mercy. There is also the redirection that happens through people. Someone you thought would stay in your life leaves. Someone you admired disappoints you. A relationship you prayed for breaks unexpectedly. This is not Allah taking from you. It is Allah clearing your path. If a person was meant to be part of your destiny, they would remain. If they are removed, it means they were not meant to support the journey you are praying for. The departure may hurt, but the healing bring. It's wisdom. And the space it creates allows someone better or something better to arrive. Sometimes the redirection comes through failure. You try, you struggle, you put in effort, and still you do not achieve what you want.